Please give her a warm welcome, folks. Now, Leslie's a little bit nervous because I don't think she's done something like this or seen so many people before. And if it's any consolation, Lesllie, don't worry, I have not really prepared my questions either, so we can both feel a bit nervous. And we're going to have an informal discussion, basically. So anything that you would like to say, please just let it flow, and we're just going to chat about what it is you do and how it is you came to work with this amazing plant.
I first to say thank you for inviting me, and thank you all. I feel much better now that I've seen you. And Elaine told me that you're all amazing people, and I can see that, so thank you. I feel not too nervous.
Thank you. I think I've got a loud enough voice, don't I? So I don't need the microphone. So I'm going to give it to Lesllie. And if you hold it like this, rock star is the trick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah. Okay, so Lesllie, it's really wonderful to have you here with us tonight. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
And we have, this is one of my little babies. And San Pedro is the more Western name for this plant, also known as Wachuma. Can you tell us why it's got these two names, and which name do you prefer?
I actually call him Pedro. Wachuma was the original name from the Inca times, or even before the Incas actually. It comes from Chavin. That's where they first found evidence of San Pedro being used. It was like 3,500 years ago. That's when they first found the evidence of it being used. Wachuma means to make you dizzy. So if you have San Pedro and you feel a little dizzy, that's normal. Okay. The name San Pedro came when the Spaniards came to Peru like 500-600 years ago. If you were caught drinking San Pedro, you would be killed. So, because it wasn't a very Catholic thing to do, so they were trying to change everybody, to Catholicism. So they taught the people about all the saints, of course, and St. Peter came up, and when they taught the Indians about St. Peter, they said, wow, well, St. Peter holds the keys to heaven, so Wachuma must be San Pedro, St. Peter. So that's where the name change came. I just call him Pedro, really, because he's my best friend. So I call him mainly that, but in Peru, the Indians prefer, of course, to call it him Wachuma. Yeah.
That's lovely. And I see you refer to the plant as a male plant. You get the sense that it's a male plant?
When I first drank San Pedro, he showed me himself as a she, okay, in the beginning. And, when I told my teacher and some other people, they said, oh no, but it's a he. And I said, well, maybe not, why do we have to put everything in little boxes? Why does it have to be a he or a she? Because I think it's much more than a he or a she. But then in the last few years, he's definitely been showing me him as a very beautiful he. Yeah.
Now, you are originally South African, and you've travelled all the way from Peru, and you've been obviously travelling quite a lot, but you are currently living in Peru, where you have a beautiful guest house, and I've brought some pictures of your guest house, which is, I believe it's called Casa de la Gringa.
Casa de la Gringa, yeah.
Now, what made you decide to move to Peru? Can you tell us a bit about living in Peru and what life in Peru is like?
It's amazing. When I went to Peru, it was in 1991. I went with a group of women from Johannesburg. We were all going to different classes, dream workshops and channelings and all sorts of things. And Peru kept on coming up in those classes. So 20 of us us decided to go and check out Peru, and I didn't even know where it was. It could have been Port Ada, you know. But anyway, I just wanted to go, so I got there, and as the plane was coming down, I just got like totally emotional. I was crying, and I was like, "Stop it, what's the matter with you?" You know, I didn't know what was going on. And as I put my foot on the ground, it was like, I'm home. It was like the first time in my life I'd ever felt that I was really at home. So I knew that I had to go and live there, but I knew I'd have to get divorced to do that too. So I waited till my twin sons turned 18, and I took them with me to Peru in '97. In the meantime, I was taking groups from South Africa to Peru 2 or 3 times a year. And then in '97 I went to Peru to live, and it's been amazing. I've had such an incredible adventure, really. It's beautiful, the people are very gentle, and they're real hard people, you know. And so the name the Gringa came because when I first got there, I opened a little hostel, and its name was Pukanyawi, which is a Quechua word which means like really great, you know, just when you feel fantastic, everything's good. But nobody could pronounce it, you know. All the tourists get from to the taxis at the airport, and they'd say, "Would you take me to Puka?" You know, and they couldn't say it, so the taxi drivers would say, "Oh, you mean la Casa de la Gringa?" You know, because Gringa in Peru, it's really it's not a derogatory word at all. It's like a term of endearment, and it just means a foreigner. And so eventually everybody was calling Casa de la Gringa, and I thought, well, go with the flow, you know, and I changed it to Casa de la Gringa, and that's how that happened.
Now, you are known as a Wachumera.
Mm-hmm.
What does Wachumera mean?
Basically, it's like Wachuma is San Pedro, so a Wachumera is the female person who works with Wachuma, and a Wachumero would be the male person that works with it, yeah.
And how did you first come to work with this plant? How did you find it?
Oh, in '91, when I got to Peru, I heard about ayahuasca. I didn't hear about San Pedro. And I really wanted to have ayahuasca. And the guide, the teacher that I had met, he just said to me, "No, you're not ready to have ayahuasca." And I said, "Well, what do I have to do to get ready?" He said, "You'll see. In the meantime, you can drink San Pedro." And so he introduced me to Wachumero, and I drank Wachuma, and it changed my whole life, really changed my whole life. And then after I had Wachuma many times, then he said, "Okay, we're off to the jungle, you ready for ayahuasca?" And I said, "What did I do?" And he said, "You'll understand when you drink ayahuasca." And when I drank it, I understood totally why it was a very good idea. I had Wachuma before ayahuasca. Yeah.
And what made you go back to San Pedro?
Well, San Pedro is beautiful. You know, it's just so much love and so much gentleness, and it's so easy to understand, and it just made everything beautiful for me. Ayahuasca was, my first ayahuasca experience was amazing. It was really magnificent, but it's never been the same since then. And San Pedro actually comes and fetches me in the ayahuasca, and he says, "Come, you are coming with me," and he takes me away, and the ayahuasca's gone. So it's like, how many more times am I going to try and have ayahuasca when San Pedro's just saying, no, you're not, you're coming with me. You know, so now it's done.
Amazing, unbelievable. And how, can you tell us about how San Pedro has changed your life?
Yeah, first of all, I would say San Pedro taught me about self-love. That was something that I never had anything of. I didn't know what self-love meant. So San Pedro taught me about that. San Pedro showed me the world, and it was as if my eyes were open for the very first time. I never knew that the world was so beautiful. I actually didn't see any beauty in anything or anybody or myself, and I was always depressed. I'd been depressed from the age of 12 with lots of medications and psychologists and psychiatrists and all the rest. Nothing actually lifted the depression. And then my first San Pedro ceremony, it was like, oh my God, this is the world? Like, it was, you know, I just saw everything differently, and it was so beautiful. And I've never been depressed since. I might have depression maybe for, 5 minutes, and it might come twice a year. And when it comes, I go, oh, that's what it is. Okay, I'll enjoy these 2 minutes, and then it's gone. Whereas before I was in a deep hole and I just couldn't get out of it, So, what was the question? Okay, so that was, self-love, loving other people, seeing the best in everybody and in everything, and seeing the beauty in the world, and no more depression, and just teaching me to be happy and to love life and love everything.
Now, can you tell us a bit about your training, and what was it that made you decide to dedicate your life to this plant?
Well, I didn't know that this is what I'd be doing. Okay, this is like still a surprise for me. It's like I don't know how this unfolded, but thank you, God. What happened is, well, obviously the plant fascinated me so much to see what it was doing for me and what it was doing for others. And so I just wanted to keep healing. And I met my teacher, Ruben, in a church, actually, as a tourist, in the Sacred Valley. And he just said to me, do you want to come and drink San Pedro with me? And I said, sure. And so my training started like that. First of all, I was drinking a lot of San Pedro with him because he said to me that I really needed a lot of healing. And he's an amazing man, really beautiful, gentle man. And then that was before I moved to Peru. During that time, 91 to 97, I would bring rubes and I would drink with Ruben. And then when I moved to Peru to live in 97, he asked me if I would be his assistant in exchange for him teaching me. And it was like, of course, And so my training started like that, and he made me drink it twice a week for 2.5 years. And it wasn't such fun then. In the beginning it was like, oh, I'm going to San Pedro. It was like, more fun. But when it came to the actual work that he made me do, it was very hard because he made me go really deep. And, often he'd come and say, okay, tomorrow I'm picking you up, be ready at 9 o'clock. We're going off to the lake to drink San Pedro. And yeah, sure. And during the night I would get like sick headache, diarrhea, whatever, vomiting, and get up in the morning, oh my God, I can't go, I'm so sick. And he'd come to the house to fetch me, and I'd go to the car and say, I'm so sorry, I can't come, I'm really sick. And he says, I know you're sick, that's why you need San Pedro. And I go, no, but you don't understand, I'm really sick. And he's going, I know you're really sick, so just get in the car, we are going to drink your medicine. And I would cry, and I'd think, oh my God, I can't do this again, But that's how it went, and it was the most amazing thing, and it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm very, very grateful for what he did for me. Because also, drinking it like that, he was making me understand other people's issues and pains, emotional pain, all of that as well. He was making me go deep so that I could understand it. So I'm grateful, very grateful for that.
Now, how many people, just out of interest, if you could raise your hands, have worked with this plant before? Okay. So those of you that haven't, maybe Lesley, you could just give us an idea, like what San Pedro tastes like, because I think to drink it twice a week makes me feel a bit shaky.
Yeah, I shook a lot. I still shake just to think about it. Okay, so so the question was, how does it taste?
Yeah, and how does one drink the plant or consume it? And if you can give us an idea, what is the flavor of this medicine?
Oops. Okay. Okay, when I cook it for a long time, but even if you cook it for a short time, it's very slimy. That's the hard part, is the slime. It's a little bitter. I don't think the taste is bad. It's just the slime. But like, I also do it with powder. I make my own powder, and for me the powder is easier if you drink it fast. Of course, if you leave it, it'll go like jelly. But if you drink it fast, it's just a little gritty, you know, it's bad, it's just bitter, that's all. Really.
I think one of the worst things you can do is leave the powder in your glass, because then you have to eat it instead of drinking it.
Yeah, you have to do this fast. You know, I always say to people, just, you know, put your prayer and your intention in, close your eyes and down it. Yeah, much better.
Can you tell us a bit about what your training involved, or there was a story that you told me once about the white staircase.
The Stairway of Light.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually my first San Pedro experience. And what happened was, I drank it in the same place where I'm living now. Isn't that amazing? The same place. And what Chimero kept saying to me all day, it's like, because I couldn't speak Spanish then, and he, you know, only had a few words of English, and he kept on saying to me, "You go there," and I'm looking, I'm thinking, what's his problem? You know, the mountains aren't there, the mountains are there. But he kept on at it, and I didn't understand what he was actually trying to show me. And then when we were coming down the end of the day, I walked in front and I just stopped dead, because in the grass there was like this stairway of the light, and it went, you know, up like this, and then it went right up into the sky. And I just stopped and I thought, oh my God, what is this, you know? And then he came along and I pointed and I said, like, look, and he said, yes, you go. And I'm thinking, but I still don't know how to get there. What is he talking about? You know, I still don't know actually. But anyway, so, and he said to me, take a photo, and I thought, nah, we're hallucinating, it's not going to come out. And he said, take a photo, and I still thought, nah, this is just in my mind. And the third time he said, take a photo, and I said, okay, I'll humor him, and I took a photo. And in those days, it wasn't digital, so I got home and I'd forgotten all about that photo, and we developed, I had like 30 films, and we developed them, and I just handed all my friends photos, and my one friend, Brave, she had that one, and she just said, oh my God, Lesley, what is this? So I've still got the photo, the Stairway of Light. Yeah, and that's also what's so beautiful about San Pedro, is because it's not a hallucinogenic really, or psychedelic, that you're going to see all the beautiful colors like ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is beautiful, but it's not like that. You see really things that are actually real, things that really exist. It's like, of course, there's Stairway of Light. You see energy, you see things that exist, and we've just forgotten how to see them. And it's like, you're having the curtains pulled open on your eyes, and you're seeing things as they really are again, and you understand that it's really real. It's, all the things that we believed, and then suddenly those beliefs, sometimes we stop believing them because we think they don't really exist, but San Pedro shows you, yeah, it's all there. Everything is real.
I remember you once told me that San Pedro is puma medicine. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, in Peru we have what's called a chacana, which is also known as an Indian cross. It's a cross with 3 levels, like that, and then it goes around again 3 times. And the bottom one is the underworld, which is represented by the snake. And then the middle one is the puma, which is this world. And then the upper world is it used to be the hummingbird, it's been changed to the condor, but it was really the hummingbird in the old times. And that's the world of spirit. So what San Pedro is doing for us actually, it's not a medicine that's taking us into other worlds at all. This is medicine that's teaching us how to be in our bodies. It's teaching us how to live in this world. It's teaching us to live in balance and harmony and learn to love everything about this world. So it's not about other worlds. It's not about the underworld. It's not about the upper world. It's just teaching us be here now. Live in this body. Learn to live in this world. That's really what the puma means.
Now, San Pedro is described as a teacher plant. Can you tell us more about the teacher plant nature of San Pedro?
I'm not sure if I understand that question, because I think maybe it's what I've already said, is that it's teaching us how to be in our bodies, how to be in this world, how to live in balance and harmony, how to have understanding for other people, how to have compassion for other people, and yourself, of course, and how to forgive as well and move on. It's teaching you, don't get stuck. Let's address the issues that you haven't healed. If we have to go back to the past, let's do it. Let's understand what happened, and let's have compassion, and let's forgive, and let's come back to this moment. And it's almost like giving us the opportunity to rewrite our story. It's like, everybody has some kind of drama in their lives, everybody. So, but we can't get stuck there. And San Pedro shows us very clearly, we cannot get stuck there. It's like, let's heal it and let's come back to this moment and live in this moment. That's basically what it is.
Now, as a medicinal plant and the healing that takes place when people work with this plant, I believe the healing is quite profound. In fact, I was fortunate enough to attend one of Lesley's ceremonies last year, and at the time, I actually don't know what was wrong with me. No one knew what was wrong with me, but I would have this thing where every day at about 12 o'clock I'd have incredible stomach pain, and I'd have to actually just lie down. I couldn't eat after 12 o'clock. And in your ceremony, I just sat there and I had a piece of rose quartz, and I just worked with San Pedro, and I haven't had a day's symptom since. Yeah, amazing. And I know that you see cases like this all the time with San Pedro. Can you tell us a bit more about some of the incredible healings that you've witnessed and working with this plant?
Sure. This is why I love this plant, because I know that it's going to heal everybody, on some level. Sometimes it seems like a subtle healing, but sometimes they're huge. Sometimes we don't see the healings, but sometimes I get the opportunity to actually witness them, and it's magnificent. For example, I'll have to think of examples, they go on and on. There was this girl staying in my hostel. She was from Switzerland, and she was about 24 or so, and she was completely bald, and she used to wear scarves over her head. And so I said, she didn't come for San Pedro, she was just staying in my hostel. And so one day I spoke to her, I said, what's going on with you? And she said, no, she's been to every specialist in Switzerland and other countries, and they say they can't do anything about it. She's going to lose her eyelashes, all her bodily hair, there's no cure. And me in my, innocence, I said, oh, nonsense, of course, if you just drink San Pedro, of course it's going to heal you. Your hair's going to grow back. I've seen people healed of cancer, so why can't your hair grow back? And she said, okay, she'll drink it. And she drank it, and about 5 months later, she sent me a photo from Switzerland with a huge bush of hair, like thick hair like this. And that's not the only girl, because Ross actually wrote about that in one of the books, and one of the mothers read that story, and her daughter had the same thing, so she sent her daughter, and I was really nervous. I thought, oops, what if this doesn't work? I was like nervous. And she drank it, and the same thing, her hair grew back again. They never told me what the emotional issues were. Some people tell me, some people don't. And but whatever it was, it healed. 2 girls, it gave them a new life, because both of them had become very depressed, and they wouldn't go out of their homes, and they wouldn't go to work, and things like that. So that was one great one. Another one that I always tell the story, because for me this is like the most wonderful story. It's about my sister. Her husband died, and he was very sick for about a year, and 3 months after that her son was killed here in South Africa. And my sister had a stroke because of the shock, and so her left leg and her left arm were not working properly. She was dragging her left leg, and her arm could only come up about this high, and this side of her face had dropped. And then she got sugar diabetes from the shock of all of that. And I had asked her to have San Pedro, and she just, she wasn't interested. She thought it was a drug, but she became worse and worse. She was like losing her personality. She didn't want to talk to anybody. She wasn't interested in living. In fact, she'd actually given up on living. She didn't want to be here. And one night, I was sitting at my computer in Peru, and I wrote her this email. I said, Viv, if you come, I'll pay for half your ticket. And I sent it over, and at that point I didn't have like a bus ticket to the next village, and I thought, oh, she's not going to come anyway, so I don't have to worry about it, Anyway, the next day she wrote back and she said, okay, I'm going to come, you send me the ticket. And I went, oh boy. Anyway, San Pedro works magic, and suddenly I had the money and I bought her the ticket. But she said to me, I'll come, but I'm not going to drink San Pedro, and don't even mention it to me. I don't want to hear it. And I thought, okay, it's fine, because just by being in Peru, she'll get healing, because just the energies there are amazing. So she came, and she was with me for, I think it was like 6 weeks or something, and I wasn't allowed to speak about San Pedro, which is really hard. Anyway, I behaved myself, and I never said a word, and I used to have a restaurant bar in those days. It was called Mandela. It's a really beautiful place. And I forgot to tell her that you can't drink at altitude. Alcohol, you can't. You get, knocked really fast. Anyway, so she had 2 drinks, and the next thing she was crying, and I had to take her home and put her to bed, and she was sobbing, and then I didn't know how to stop her pain, her crying. It was like too much for me, so I started doing Reiki on her. And she became so quiet that I actually thought I killed her. I was like cutting my ear to see if she was breathing. And then she kind of woke up and she said, like, what happened? Where did I go? I said, I don't know, you tell me. So she said, okay, well, tell me about San Pedro. So I started to tell her about San Pedro, and she said, can I drink it? And I said, what? She said, can I drink it? I said, sorry, I can't hear you. Can I drink it? I said, okay, Viv, you've asked me 3 times now, and I never asked you. Do you understand that? She said, yeah. I said, okay, then you can drink it. So I gave her San Pedro, and it was really hard. I'm looking at this picture of my garden. It was there, but there was nothing there, just mud at that point. And I drank with her. It was just the 2 of us. And she cried so badly that day. I held her in my arms, I was lying on the ground for 5 hours. She never stopped crying, and I was terrified. I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know how to help her. So while I was lying there, she was here, and I saw my hand doing this, and it was like, what's going on with my hand? Stop it, And I tried to stop my hand, and it wasn't stopping. And I thought, oh, well, maybe San Pedro's doing something, because I can't control my hand. But in the meantime, I noticed like strands of energy or something. And I thought, okay, well, I don't know what's going on, but something's happening. And then that night, I took her home and I put her to bed, and she said to me, oh, I didn't have any experience with San Pedro. I didn't experience anything. And I was like so mad because I was exhausted. And I said, just go to sleep. San Pedro's done his work, just go to sleep, Anyway, the next morning she got up to shower, and she had full use of her arm and her leg, and her face was completely up. It was like amazing. And she said to me then, then she started remembering things. She was coming up with past lifetimes in Peru, and she was like, what? You told me you had no experience, you know. And she said what had happened is when she was in my arm, my arm was pulling the pain out of her heart, and it was the pain that had surrounded her heart that had affected her left side, which makes perfect sense, you know. And so San Pedro had pulled all this pain out of her, and she got her life back. And she's amazing. She let go of her son that day, you know. I mean, he's still very much with us, but in a happy way. She stopped the mourning, you know, and she started living again. So I've seen a lot of those kinds of things happen with San Pedro. I've seen a lot of people healed of cancer with San Pedro. Lots of many illnesses, because what the plant is doing is it's showing you why you have an illness, you know. And once you understand where it comes from, and it's usually from not healing something from the past, or it's because of subconscious thought patterns that we keep repeating. Once we see that and we understand it, then it's very easy to change the way we are thinking and write our new story and come back to this moment with a whole different view. And that's how we start living again.
Oh, it's incredibly beautiful. I have so much love for this plant, and it's so lovely to have you sharing with us, Lesley. Thank you. If someone is suffering from addiction, would you say San Pedro would be able to assist them?
Oh yeah. My first experience with addiction was there were these 3 guys from Norway. They came and said, you know, they want to drink San Pedro with me, and I said, sure. And they never told me that they had any problem. They never told me they were addicts, nothing. So there I'm in my garden and expecting, you know, bliss and beauty like we always have with San Pedro. And hell broke out. These guys were like pounding the floor, you know, and shouting and screaming and rolling around and writhing. And I was standing there going, oh my God, what's happening? What's going on, you know? Thank God it was just them and me, there weren't other people, because I really had no idea what was going on. And then towards the end of the day, one of the guys walked in and he said, this is the end. And I said, what do you mean? You know, I was like terrified, I didn't know what he meant. And he just said, it's the end of my slavery to addiction. And I said, what do you mean? And then they started telling me, well, they were all heroin addicts, amongst other things, and you know, many hard drugs they were taking. And anyway, I saw them in the streets about 3 days later, and they said, look at this. And I said, what? And they said, my hand, it's not shaking. I said, well, what do you mean? Why was your hand shake? And they said, no, we went through cold turkey in your garden, it's done. And that was probably about 9 years ago, and I'm still in contact with the one guy, and when I go to Europe, he always comes to visit, and 2 of them are completely clean. They haven't ever gone back to drugs. The one guy went back, unfortunately, but that was awesome that these 2 guys, you know, stayed clean. And we've done a few, we've had some young guys come in, very bad addicts, that, you know, were like in the streets with no teeth, you know, dying. Their mothers brought them, and it was hectic. But both of them, it's been 3 years for one of the guys, and it's just over a year for the other guy, and they're doing really well. But it's hard work. It's not something that I really enjoy doing, because my sons do that very well. They look after the guys, but it's hard for me. Because, you know, they come and they start seeing things when they stop taking their drugs, and it's a bit much for me. But yeah, it's amazing. It really works. It really works for addictions.
Are there any contraindications if you want to take San Pedro?
The only, if you have been on medication for schizophrenia, for example, that medication stays in your system for 9 years. And so you shouldn't have San Pedro, because the 2 don't actually go well at all together. But if a person, for example, had schizophrenia and was never on medication, it would be the most amazing thing for them to have San Pedro, because it would heal them, fast. The other thing is, if anybody, is like, any kind of drug that anybody's on, obviously I would need to know what Watchimero would need to know what it is that they are taking. And usually I would say to the person, well, would you stop taking it for a day at least? Because if you come in to drink San Pedro, which is medicine, you need to have faith in the medicine. Otherwise, why are you drinking it, So I think that's also part of the healing, is recognizing that if you're going to take you're going to take a sacred plant to heal, then you have to actually let go of the other medicine, at least to let the healing start. But of course, some of the, like depression, for example, when I did mine, I was on medication for years, and that day I stopped and I never took any more medication. And my teacher tells me that you should still, wean yourself off. I didn't, and I think I'm fine. Also, if somebody has like a bleeding colon, please don't drink the medicine. Please don't, because it can burst your colon if you, vomiting a lot, and that could be very serious. With heart, if you have heart issues, it's amazing medicine for the heart. San Pedro, first of all, on a spiritual level and an emotional level, it is heart medicine. But on a physical level, for example, people in Peru that have had bypasses or heart issues, we actually use the flower and we make a tea, and you drink that as a tea, and it actually heals these problems. So as long as the person you're drinking with knows what your issues are, and you would drink, a lot less, because it's also not about having to have major revelations. It's about trusting that this medicine is in you and it's working, and it does work. So you can even have little doses, micro doses, but San Pedro is still working with you.
So what happens if somebody has epilepsy?
That's a good question.
Epilepsy, guys, just if you didn't hear that question, yeah?
Epilepsy. Okay, I was just talking to Johan in the car coming here about epilepsy. I have a friend in Sweden that always, drinks San Pedro with me, and this year when I went, his friends were really worried because he was having like 8 epileptic fits a day. And so he just wanted to drink San Pedro, and I said no. I said, I'm nervous. I don't know what can happen. I don't think you should drink it. And he was seriously disappointed. So I said, but don't worry. I've got San Pedro flower here. I brought some dried flowers with me. And I said, just drink this as a medicine in the meantime. And just you'll be with us in the ceremony, but I don't think you should actually drink the actual cactus. So I gave him the tea, and he said that he felt really good. He had a nice day, a beautiful day. And then when I left, I had some dried flowers left over, and I just felt so bad for this guy because he's, really a divine being, and I didn't really know how to help him. So I left him the flowers, and I said to him, just take like half a teaspoon or quarter of a teaspoon of this dried flower at night. Just put it in hot water, make a little tea, and get into bed and drink it, and then go to sleep. And I was just thinking, well, it'll just help heal his heart, whatever. I don't know. I just figured that's all I had to offer, so I would give it to him. And that was in August. And he hasn't had one more epileptic fit, and he's having that tea every night. Isn't that amazing? It was like, I had no idea, but that's what it is. And he said to me, he wrote to me, and he said that the tea was teaching him why he was having the epileptic fits. And it was because he was doing things that were not in alignment with his heart. So, isn't that awesome? It's not even drinking the medicine, getting the full effect, but just that tiny little bit was working within him. every night and teaching him and healing him. So it's wonderful.
In terms of the actual plant and the spiritual properties of the plant, I'm just going to show the audience. So if you have to turn the plant this way, now the number of spines on top, you can count them. So for example, this will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if I'm correct. Yeah, 6. So now, I understand that the different cactus, the different number of spines have got different properties. Could you tell us something about that?
Okay. Well, I learned the hard way. When I was still apprenticing with my teacher, I was, practicing cooking on my own and trying all sorts of things. And I had some friends over, and I had these cactuses that were 11 ribs, and the other one was 14. 11 and 13. And I didn't know, I didn't think about it. I just thought, oh, what beautiful cactuses. I'll just cook these, and I cooked them. And we had the worst day of our lives. It was horrible. It was like we drank and we kind of fell into the ground, and we couldn't even get our faces out of the sand coming through for the whole day, and we were like drooling, and we couldn't even call to each other for help. It was horrible. And I was just lying there thinking, what's this, what the hell, what's going on? I don't understand. And we spent the whole day, with our faces drooling in the sand. And the next day I phoned him and I said, Ruben, I don't know what happened, but we had the worst experience, all of us. And I told him what happened, and he said, well, how many ribs did you use? And I said, 11 and 13. And he said, it'll teach you to play with fire, doing things that you know nothing about. And I said, what do you mean? He said, Lesley, you don't use 11s and 13s because that's what it does to you. And he said, there's a lot of things you have to learn about this cactus, before you play around with it. And he told me that, for example, a 4, he said 4 we use for exorcisms. And he said, and Lesley, if you ever have somebody that you have to do an exorcism on, he said, call me. He said, I don't want to do it either, but call me because I think I can handle going to hell better than you. So I use 7s and 9s because 7s and 9s are always beautiful, even if it's, beautiful can also be hard in a way, but it's still beautiful. 7s and 9s are a gentle way of teaching, and it's in a way that you can really understand. Whereas, the others definitely didn't work for me that way. But also, I don't really use 5s or 6s or 8s or even 10s because the effect is different. It's not as loving, and I go for loving. So sometimes I might add, if I'm cooking a big batch, I might add 1 of something else. But if I can have enough 7s and 9s, I'll stick to that.
Amazing. Now, could you tell us something about the format of the ceremony? From what I understand, the traditional way of serving San Pedro has to do with hitting people with sticks and making them snort tobacco that's been infused with alcohol and hot and cold baths. And it's a bit difficult for us Westerners. So I understand that your ceremonies are a bit different. Can you tell us something about that?
Oh, sure, I'm not going to hit anybody. The old way was to do the ceremonies at night. Personally, I don't, especially living in Peru. I'm talking about in Peru. I don't like doing ceremonies at night in Peru because it's freezing cold at night, and it's I want to get into my journey, and I want to understand it and enjoy it. And when I'm freezing cold, all I can think of is, why can't I get warm, and then I can't really have my journey. So the night ceremonies didn't really work for me at all. And also, the old way is like they would have these sticks, which they would every now and then hit you on the back with wherever. And they'd also get like whole buckets of water and pour the cold water over you. And it's like, what for? You know, I don't understand that, because there you are talking to God and suddenly you've got a cold bucket of water over you, you know. So I didn't understand that, but not many of the Wachimeras work like that anymore. The ones on the coast still do, some of them. But that's all changed, although mostly they're still done at night. But I just couldn't deal with it, so, you know, San Pedro knew I was suffering, so he said to me one day, you know, just do it in the day and do it in a different way. And I said, well, how? And he said, you know how? And I said, I don't know. So I sat for a few weeks not doing ceremonies because I didn't know how to do them. I thought, what does he want me to do? And then I realized there's nothing to do. He does the work, you know, he does the healing. So basically all my ceremonies look like, we would sit down in my ceremony room, I would explain to everybody how the medicine works, how to work with the medicine, what you could expect. And then I just do a prayer and I give the medicine, and then San Pedro takes over from there and he does the healing. I'm just there basically to watch, to see if you need some help. I'm there to help you, but I don't, you know, I don't go in and tell you what I think, because that's a story. You know yourselves better than I do, so I leave San Pedro to do the work, and I'm just there as an assistant to you guys and to San Pedro.
That's lovely. Now, look, as you can see, a lot of people have already worked with this plant, and unfortunately not everyone has opportunity to work with you. So people are working with San Pedro in their own capacity. For people that are working with the plant already, can you give some guidance, like just some general guidance in terms of how to engage with this plant? Is there any advice?
Yeah, well, first of all, I suggest that, I don't suggest that anybody drinks it on their own. If you're going to drink it, you know, have somebody with you, even if that person's not drinking, have somebody sitting with you just to be there for you. It's really nice to have support, you know? Even if it's just somebody to give you a hug, or just to make you a cup of tea. Sometimes it's much more than that, of course, because if there's a lot of emotional issues that need to be healed, you're going to need somebody to hold you, to help you, to maybe talk you through it, to, it's kind of like a little bit of psychiatry going on as well, you know? So you do need somebody to be with you. I still haven't drunk it on my own ever, can you believe that? And I don't want to, you know. I like to know that there's somebody around, but if I need some help, there'll be somebody there for me. I think it can also be a little dangerous to have it on your own if you don't have anybody to support you. Because although, yes, you know, mainly it's all love and light and all of that, I have also seen some really crazy things that have actually freaked me out. So, if you've got support, it's much better. That's the first advice I would give to somebody. Also, I would suggest that you don't start with big doses. You know, start with small doses so you can get to really listen to the plant and feel the plant and start to understand what the plant is really about. It's not about getting high. It's not about having big doses and seeing how much you can put under your belt. You know. It's not like that. This is a plant that wants to work gently, that wants to teach. And if we're out of it, we're not going to understand, you know. It's like, I've seen people that have insisted, I need more, I need more. And I go, you don't, you know. If you learn to work with this plant, this is perfect, it's enough. No, I want more. Okay, and I give them more, and the next thing, they don't know where they are, they don't know who they are. Like, what's the point, you know? That's not what it's all about. It's about really learning to work with the plant, understanding it. So I would say start with small doses, and yeah, then you can work up, but it's about understanding how the plant works.
Something that's quite interesting is microdosing. Could you tell us about microdosing, how to microdose, and what the benefits of microdosing are?
I would say, you know what I explained with the flower for the guy who's having epileptic fits. It's kind of like that, you know. You don't have to have an experience as such. So if you have in like powdered San Pedro, for example, if you have access to powdered San Pedro, a microdose would be like 1/4 of a teaspoon. And you could have it in the day or at night, although my teacher says night is better. And apparently you sleep really well and you have really amazing dreams that are teaching you. If you have in the liquid, it also depends, you know, I mean, I know my liquid, but I don't know anybody else's liquid. If it was my liquid, you would drink a glass of maybe about their normal dose. So a microdose would be like a teaspoon. Sorry?
So a normal dose would be that much, but a microdose would be a teaspoon.
Yeah, and so, sorry?
I said, assuming you know the concentration of the liquid, the glass
Exactly.
will really help you.
Yeah.
That's the thing, you know, I don't know, everybody has, there's hundreds of different kinds of San Pedros as well, you know. So it's like, it depends on which type you're using, how you're preparing it. There's many factors to it, but I mean, if it was a teaspoon, or if it was a really thick mixture, you know, the normal thing would be less, then you'd only have half a teaspoon. But I wouldn't recommend it having it like going to work. You know, I mean, what's the point? Because then you have to concentrate on your work instead of actually getting into listening. So that's why nighttime is good, because it still comes to you in your dreams.
What about after work?
Well, that's nighttime, isn't it?
After work, would you still be functional the next day?
Oh yeah, microdosing is it's you don't actually feel that you're on San Pedro or anything. It's like drinking a bit of apple juice. You know what I mean? You don't feel the effects, but it's definitely working on a subconscious level and in your physical body. It's definitely doing its healing and working on it. So that way you can get to know the plant better, because you start. It's like, you know, San Pedro really stays with you. You know, that they say you drink it once and it's with you forever, and it's totally true, because it's like San Pedro is constantly talking to you. And I know people say, what, you hear a voice? No, it's not like that. It's just like this inner knowing that this is the truth and this is right. And so it's like San Pedro constantly talks to you. So by microdosing, you get to know that voice. You're not going to hear it or feel it or understand it. Probably you won't feel anything. But after, if you've done it for a month, you'll start to recognize, hey, you know, things are changing. I'm thinking in a different way. I'm feeling a different way. I'm understanding in a different way. So that's how microdosing works.
In terms of cultivating San Pedro, the cactus, I understand you can either grow it from seeds or you can grow it from cuttings. Do you have any advice for the group in terms of growing and how to grow a healthy plant?
Okay, first of all, I've never grown it from seeds. I don't even know what the seed looks like. Sorry. I usually, you know, how I started mine was I'd buy little cactuses, or sometimes big cactuses, and the ones I'd cook, you know, I'd cut the tops off and I'd cut the bottoms off, and then I would you dry. So, okay, so for example, this part, I would, you know, you don't have to bring it, it's okay.
Sure.
But okay, I wouldn't use such a little one because Shane, he needs to grow. But if this was a big one, the top part I would cut off about that much, and I would dry it in the sun so that the base part goes like really hard, and then from that you put it into the soil, and that's when it'll start growing. If you put it in wet, it probably will rot. And then I'd also keep like the root about that much as well, and that I would also dry, and then I'd put it in the ground, and it starts growing, and then the babies will start coming out like that. If you put the top in, it's usually just the top bit that starts growing, and when it gets bigger, then it starts getting babies at the bottom. Excuse me. You can also lie it, the best way to do it is to lie it flat on the ground, just on top of the ground, and then a lot of babies just start growing up like that. But you know, I wish I could give you better advice, but in my house I have about 700 growing, but it's really strange because like the ones at my front door, oh, that's also interesting because, you know, they say you should plant one or two at your front door because it wards off, you know, any negativity. And the two that I've got at my front door, I bought probably about 30 or 40 at the same time, okay? The two at my front door are at the second story roof, okay? They're that high, and they've got babies growing underneath, and they get like 60, 80 flowers each every year. The other ones that I bought at exactly the same time, the same height, everything, I planted in different sides of the garden, and they're probably only about this high, and some of them are about that high. It's amazing. And then the ones that I grow in the shade, now remembering that this is kind of a desert plant, it should be a desert plant, and I live in the mountains where there's a lot of rain. So I have to cover mine so they don't get too much rain. When the rain comes, I have like plastic covers, otherwise they rot. But strangely, the ones that grow in the shade are the fattest cactus I think on the earth. They're like that. I swear, San Pedro is like that. So I don't know. And they're all good, you know, and some of them grow spines and some of them don't grow spines, but they all started off exactly the same, so I really don't know. I just know that it's not good to put it in too much soil. I put a lot of rocks underneath and then stones, and then I use like a little bit of soil, and then I put building sand, because the soil holds too much water for my plants and they rot. So that's about all I can tell you about my San Pedro growings.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I think that's all the questions from my side. So I think that now it's your turn, guys. Lesley, thank you. It's been great. It's been so lovely to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Pleasure.
It's really it's such a gift to have you with us. Thank you. She was very worried, I must say, when I told her that this is what we had in mind.
Well, I normally just sit in my malacca on the floor with, you know, in a circle, and that's really easy. But sitting at a desk, it was like, oh, I don't know about this one. But it was fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Let's just give her a round of applause. So let's get some questions from you guys. What would you like to know about San Pedro? James?
You've spoken at quite length about what we can benefit from the plants, but what about the plant itself? What does it get from us? Is it a two-way sort of communication?
You know, all the plant asks from us is that we just listen and put into action what it's teaching us. Once San Pedro said to me, Lesley, you guys stop giving San Pedro to people that do not listen and do not learn and just keep repeating the same thing. Stop wasting my time and your time. And I was like horrified. I said, what? Like, San Pedro, how can you say that? Like, of course I can't do that. He said, you can and you will. He said, everybody has the opportunity to learn and to heal by drinking San Pedro. But if they continue doing the same thing and they're just drinking it for the sake of a high and they're not putting into action what San Pedro is teaching them, he said, please stop wasting time. Does that answer your question?
Thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yes, Alex.
I've heard different folks say about the container that you're serving it in, and one person, like, I was speaking of an experience, and she was all like, oh, you shouldn't serve it in a silver cup, it should be a different, an actual plant cup, and I was wondering if you had anything about how it's actually served.
You know, I'm very down to earth, and you know, I don't know why people have to make up all sorts of issues about these things. You know, San Pedro is a plant. He's like us. He's just a normal human being. He doesn't expect to be treated like a king, to have a silver or gold cup. All he asks from us is that we just listen and have some respect. That's all. And that's the way we drink it and the way we use it in our lives. It's not about whether it's in a silver cup or a plastic one. No.
Thank you. Pat?
Hi, Gringa. Thank you very much for coming. Have you tried any other chocolate cakes?
No, I've been wanting to try peyote for years because I go to Mexico a lot to do ceremonies there. And so I thought, oh, this will be so easy, I can have peyote there. And it's like the group that I do the San Pedro with, they've never drunk peyote. And I said, like, what's your problem? You know, this is your plant in your country, but I haven't had the opportunity yet. So I'm sorry. Peyote, no, ayahuasca I've drunk, I've had mushrooms, I've had salvia, I've had, what other plants are there, medicines? I mean,
Iboga.
oh no, I haven't tried Iboga. Actually, Fabian, we did a thing now together in Peru, where at my place we did San Pedro ayahuasca, Iboga. But I chickened out for the Iboga. But I'm sorry I chickened out because everybody said it was magnificent and it was really life-changing for them. And he's amazing, by the way.
Please tell me how to you say Chononita, is that right?
I just call him Fabian.
Yeah, me too. But Fabian's lovely.
Yeah, he's divine.
We're very much looking forward to him.
But Chononita, yeah, that's the way. Yeah.
So he's lovely. And his wife, Nicole Sky, she's a beautiful musician. If you haven't heard her music, she's like Deborah Pennell. She's amazing. So hope maybe we can get her to sing a song for us when she comes. Penny, you have a question? Yes.
I wanted to ask you, I've heard it said that mescaline extraction is really not good because you're divorcing the plant from the alkaloids and it becomes an addictive substance. Do you care to comment on that for us?
I have no idea.
Okay, you can
Sorry.
All right.
I don't know.
Have you ever had any desire to extract or to alter? Yeah.
No, what for? It's perfect as it is. I'm not going to mess with it.
Oh, I'm with you on that one. Yes, Luke.
I'm very confused about all the spikes.
About all the spikes.
Like, spikes.
The spines.
Spines.
Let's say there's 4 spines, and then if it's one's about to grow, does it still count as a 4? Or is it 5?
Well, it depends how big it is. I mean,
One falls
obviously.
off due to weather conditions stuff.
No,
does it
it's-
downgrade?
It's, if you have to slice it, you can. It's like a star, so it's like the sides of the star. So like 1, 2, 3. It's not the spines. It's actually the shape. So it's the sides of the star.
Okay.
So they won't fall off. It's the actual shape.
Okay, so it's actually a completely different plant. Well, it's very obvious. Okay, then we're like the little cookie.
Yeah, they were
Yes, the question in the back.
Yes, so if you were to want to grow more of them, so you cut it off and you dry it out, if you've got one that's say got 9 little flowery, spiny thingy, whatever you call them, and then you plant that one, will that grow another 9 or will it decide, you know, actually I want to get 4? You
They
know,
can change, and they do change all the time. But like when I'm looking for the 9s or the 7s, I'm looking for the ones that are mainly that. You know, obviously, if there's like an extra one growing in for that much of the way, it's not going to matter. But I'm not going to, I'll try and find the ones that are mainly 7s or 9s. Yeah, but yeah, they do change. They change their minds all the time.
I think a good example of that is this one, because this one is kind of going at the base into something. Maybe at the base it's a bit more. Okay.
That one looks like it's been cut, and that's the new part growing up. That was the old part.
Okay.
so sorry, do the spines start 4 or 7 or 6 or they
Oh
start
no,
at
they
4?
start. No, they don't. It's actually hard to find a 4. It's very hard to find a 4. So they start as anything, anything. But I think the most common ones are probably like 6s, 7s, and probably 8s. Yeah, those are the most common.
My question is, when you said you worked with a plant for a very long time in the course of healing, and you basically said the plant told you not to work with people that just come for a high. If you don't have the guts to say no to them, will the plant stop giving them the high? Is it patient? Is it firm? I'm curious about that because they usually work for hours.
Yeah, no, I used to in the past, I couldn't do that, but I've become quite hard. I could say it, no problem. Yeah, people have said to me, geez, but you're really hard. And I go, yeah, well, sorry, I have to be, because it's like, I understand what San Pedro is saying is because a lot of people, it's the same with ayahuasca, you get a lot of people that go to the jungle and they say, oh, I've drunk ayahuasca 60 times. Well, big deal, what have you done with it? And I understand that, so yeah, I've become a little hard.
I was just curious if the plant assisted you in saying the beginning.
Sorry?
How did the plant assist you in saying no in the beginning?
I was just curious if the plant would assist you while you were trying to set it in place.
Because I landed up in hospital doing a healing. Yeah, it was not good. It was well, healings can be sometimes not so beautiful, and so I landed up going into hospital, and while I was in hospital, San Pedro was telling me all of this, and I was saying, please keep quiet, I have to heal, and he was going, this is part of your healing. And so, when I got out of hospital and I realized what had actually happened and the danger that I had put myself in, it was like, I'm not doing that again.
You see, so it did assist you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Stuart, yes.
I just wanted to ask, you said earlier that you'd obviously work with Reiki. With San Pedro, like I do work with crystals, and when I experience San Pedro, my work with crystals is obviously a lot more profound, if I can say that. So have you experienced or know of stuff that, like obviously in Peru the energy is crazy because there's a lot of like intense vortexes and all of the ancient stuff is very beautiful, but have you done any like really complex, or complex is not the right word, but maybe advanced energy work while under the influence of or with the guidance of San Pedro?
You can't believe what goes on in
Okay.
San Pedro. Yeah, no, I've seen, for me as well, San Pedro does obviously do the healing. I sometimes think, what is going on here? And I know it's not me, it's San Pedro that's working through me. And then I've also seen like people, yoga teachers, for example, doing the most extraordinary things, and they're going, my God, I've never been able to do this before, and they understand the positions even that they never even understood before. They get the whole story behind where it came from, why it's like that. With crystals as well, with anything, everything is on a different level in San Pedro. It's because it's teaching you through whatever it
So would you say that something like San Pedro is a key to access something like the Akashic records or the collective consciousness? Because obviously all that information, all that ancient information is within us, but we've blocked it off to such an extent. Do you think that San Pedro would be a key to unlocking that treasure chest in our souls?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like, what San Pedro shows us is that we actually do know everything and we've just forgotten it. So you drink San Pedro, it's not like you're learning anything new, really. It might feel new, but it's actually a remembrance of what we already know. So it's helping us to understand that and see
So
that.
is that not how the healing takes place as well?
Yes.
That you remember that you're absolutely wonderful and are worthy of all the love and the Lord?
Of course.
Yes, Trish.
Is there such thing as a real good quality strain or not?
I used to think that one was better than the other, or one was stronger than the other. And I've come to realize that it's not like that. It's all about what is the intention.
So you can take it by yourself, slowly, surely, microdose yourself
Yes.
for a long time, and you will, so you don't have to get the ceremony if you
No.
can't. If you just face your own truth and take it and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can we get some tea?
Well,
You want to take it straight?
I wanted to know, where are the urns with the flowers, flower tea in?
Leslie, I've done San Pedro 3 times with the Charlotte we used it ayahuasca at night, and then the following day we do the San Pedro, and it started with the tea. They give us, the first time was initiation dose, it was quite a big, probably a tablespoon of pound or and then later we do a ceremony with kairos and whatever, and he'd give us the gel, a couple of teaspoons of gel. And there was absolutely no effect on me all 3 times. My son, at the shaman, also said he came to South Africa because of the technology here, because he's actually made San Pedro tablets. So yes, and he has the drops and whatever. Now my son just took off with San Pedro, but even if he just smells the tablets, he starts getting affected by the San Pedro. Is it just, I'm not supposed to, I didn't feel any healing or anything afterwards, I had no visions, nothing. But afterwards when I took the tablets, I just felt my body was very strong and information would flow. If I was teaching, it would just all come out naturally. And at that stage I had a frozen shoulder. If I took the tablets in the morning, I could demonstrate exercises there with no problem with the shoulder.
It's very, very rare that somebody doesn't feel it. It's very rare. And some of the time, it's because the person doesn't really know what to expect or how to work with it. Sometimes we have expectations. We think it should be like this, or we're going to see visions, or, because it's hard when you try and tell somebody about San Pedro. Not everybody, nobody's ever going to have the same experience. And also, it's never the same. Every time you drink it, I don't know how many times I've drunk it, but it's never been the same experience ever. So, I can't say in your case, maybe you just need to have some more just to get to feel the plant, get more comfortable with it and try not to have expectations. So I don't really know, because as I said, I've hardly had anybody that hasn't felt it, and usually if I give them a second dose, they do feel it. But what I know, because sometimes when I was, in the early days when I was drinking, I would say to my teacher, I don't feel a thing, I don't feel a thing. And he'd say, Leslie, you feel it. And I go, no, I don't, no, I don't. And he used to, just roll his eyes at me. And I've got to understand that I did feel it, but I was expecting something different. So I think it's just learning to just go with the flow, go slow, and it will come.
I was rather hoping to do the ceremony on the 3rd. So then to do Oh, really? Because then my son will come back on that.
I've had one experience myself working with San Pedro where I had no experience, and I was taking 5-HTP, and I believe that SSRIs and 5-HTP, if your serotonin is high, can cancel out the San Pedro. So that was just my personal experience, but I think maybe it's different for other people.
You're right. That's also an important factor.
He made us do the diet for a week beforehand, fresh fruit, vegetables, salt, sugar, those kind of things. I'm the first person I've heard who had so much not feeling.
No, I wouldn't worry about it. I would just, just relax and try and drink it again, but without expectations. And it will come to you. It's just about listening to that inner voice, that's all. It's not about, huge
And
things.
plants, as you were saying, at your front door for protection, and they do does their energy actually affect their space? I mean, if you have it in your gardens or...
My garden having like over 700 San Pedro, it definitely affects, people walk in and they go, oh, wow, this is amazing. I think also, like where you drink it is important. Also for those people that are trying it out, do it out in nature, please. Don't sit inside an apartment, and do it. That's not good. It's like learning to use this in nature. It's about reconnecting to nature.
So it's not psychedelic at all?
Can be. It can be, but it's usually more psychedelic for people that have had other plants. But it's not about being psychedelic. It's not like ayahuasca where you're going to see all the colors and all of that. But of course you can. Like in my garden, it can be very psychedelic because we do ayahuasca in my garden as well, and there's plants everywhere. So it's like all of that is affecting it. But generally, it's not a psychedelic.
Stuart, let's have one last question.
I just wanted to ask, when combining, like you were talking earlier, you did ayahuasca, San Pedro, ayahuasca, etc. But that would obviously have been on separate occasions. When mixing the two, or mixing various different plant magics, if I can call them that, would you say that San Pedro is more of a dominant energy that would take more control of the situation, or would you say that they work hand in hand together?
I think that the plants work very well together.
Strictly ayahuasca and San Pedro, or just...
Yeah, well, I didn't have a boga, so I don't know, but I'm sure it does. Like in the jungle, the ayahuasqueros, the Indian teachers, they will say, oh no, you mustn't have San Pedro, don't mix the medicines. But it's not true, because they go so well together. It's like San Pedro, like for example, ayahuasca will tell you what to do in no uncertain terms, but San Pedro will tell you how to do it. So it makes it very practical. And they talk about jealousy between the plants. I don't really think there's jealousy between the plants. I think they're really good allies. They work well together. But I don't suggest that people that are just starting on the medicines actually mix the medicines. Personally, I prefer not to mix the medicines. I have done it like that, but I like to keep them separate because they have their own energy, and it's beautiful to get to know each one like that.
Was a question I had for you. Some people like to mix plants at the same time. What do you think about that? For example, using marijuana with San Pedro.
I always ask people not to, when they come to my ceremonies, I ask them not to have marijuana in my ceremonies or any other plants. In fact, I actually forbid it because I've had people come in and not tell me they're on other medicine, and things get crazy and I don't know what's going on, and it's like then I'll end up with a problem that wasn't just a Pedro problem to start with, it was something else. And also marijuana will change the journey, definitely. It definitely changes the journey, and it sometimes becomes a really silly journey then, and it's like, well, why are you doing this? You can smoke marijuana anytime, just be with this plant and respect this plant and get to know this plant. I definitely don't like mixing it, no.
Okay. All right, guys, let's give Leslie one last round of applause.